All right, so pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2001. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. This is the CPC meeting. Today is Wednesday, September 21st, 2022 at 8 p.m. We have a quorum. Thanks everyone for being flexible. And I know things happen where we couldn't have a quorum last time, but appreciate everyone being flexible and being able to meet this week, because there are a couple of things we definitely want to make sure that we can resolve this week. So I've called the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is Tim Davis, Recreational Director, to give an update on the tennis pickleball court and Callander Field. So Jen, if you can pull him over, that'd be great. Hey, Tim.
Good evening, everybody. How are we doing?
Doing well, yourself?
Doing very well, thank you.
Hey, thanks for being flexible too on this. Appreciate it.
Well, it was my recreation chair's fault the last meeting, so you know.
No.
That's good.
So Tim, I think you were going to give an update on the pickleball and Callander Fields, right?
Yeah. Can I get screen share real quick? I just, nothing says it like pictures, so I just want to do a quick deal.
Oh, sorry. They changed all the stuff.
I think you got to make me co-host now. So.
No, I think, can you share now?
Yes, I can. All right.
Okay, there you go. Perfect.
All right. Can we all see that? Wonderful. Okay,
yes.
So as mentioned, just we're pretty much done, which is wonderful, with the two main projects that we have enlisted with you all. So I just want to kind of go over it before and after, just give you, photographic evidence of what we got. Everything's working and that's all buttoned up, and kind of talk about where we are. Specifically with Callander, as we've entered kind of the last phase of that. But I will start with the pickleball courts, and to just illustrate it, or to kind of recap what we were looking to do. As you see in the pictures, and as I think this entire crew knows, as you were here with the approval, the tennis courts down at the Mooney complex next to the Finn School were kind of falling into disrepair. The one court that was usable with tennis, as you can see, had pretty significant cracks and gaping cracks throughout the court, just because of age and of usage and weather and all the elements of being outside like that for quite some time, for many years. And then subsequently next to it, we had the old skate park that was kind of locked up for longer than I've been here. We removed everything about 2 years ago, and it kind of sat vacant for that time, just for safety reasons and under lock and chain to keep the public out of it. So this project directly addressed both sides of it. So again, just two slides of the before pictures. This is the skate park side. So you can see top left where the old posts were for tennis that were grinded down, and again, just discoloring, just pretty significant cracks. So we contracted with New England Seal Coat, which is probably one of the more well-known companies in the state. This is their kind of their bread and butter when it comes to sealing surfaces, sealing sport courts. And so this is kind of a picture of that system that we approved, the system that we funded with that membrane system to go over the cracks. It's a system that expands and contracts with the cracks through the weathering, through the temperatures. So as you can tell, there's quite the many. You can kind of see it on the far end, but definitely on this front end. So they sealed all the cracks and then they put everything down, and that's where we're at now. So pretty drastic change, obviously, both with color and with surfacing. So very, very happy with that. So again, before of where we were and after of where we are now with that tennis court. You can tell that with those blue lines within, on top of a regular tennis court, we did add in pickleball lines. So that is the blue. This is the setup that we have at the Neary courts. So that, and we'll get to the pickleball side in a second. But if we wanted to expand the use of pickleball, we can put temporary nets on these courts. The phys ed teachers can as well with the next to the school if they wanted to use it for classes. That's all equipment that the rec department currently owns and has accessible to both the community and the schools and whomever's looking to use it. That's just another view of it. Signage right out front at the entrance, just so everybody knows. So again, it's kind of jarring. That's where we were, and that's where we are now. So we're very, very happy with that. And this is just a refresher of what was out there on the skate park side. So just it was full of ramps and elements that were just nothing but a safety hazard that we had to remove. And then, if you recall, a few months back, we did go to you with the idea to outfit this court with, as it has recently been deemed in the New York Times as America's fastest growing sport, of pickleball courts, instead of just adding in another tennis court. And this is what it is now. So now that we were able to fit 4 pickleball courts side by side on that one tennis court, really maximize the space out there. And pictures really don't kind of do it justice. It just came out wonderfully. As you can tell, you can see on the closest court, there's shoe scuff marks everywhere. They're being used pretty heavily already. I was out there this morning with our usual crew, just saying hi. So it's just great. It's just, we were very, very, very pleased with the outcome. I think I have there's just another view of it. So again, 2 by 2, all next to each other. And then, that's just kind of a close up of the difference of the surface now. So on the left, you see all the rust pockets and just the discoloration and the fading and kind of all the junk that was out there. And then where we sit now on the right side. So that project is done completely. Budget wise, we did talk about it, that it was going to go over, and it did. And we're prepared. Obviously, the revolving account in the rec department is going to cover that. But outside of that, there was no surprises for this project. It was pretty cut and dry, and it's being used actively on a daily basis. And we're getting a lot more attention from the community regarding pickleball, of people who have been traveling to Northborough and traveling to Westborough using those courts, who are now staying home and using ours. So that was a fun little project, and it turned out really well. So any questions on this one before I get over to Calander?
Nope. I think at least not for me. It's just the one thing I think we need to vote to approve using the reserve funds, because you did go over it. I think you're anticipating us approving that aspect. So just a formality, but to go through that piece. Yep. And then also the MOU, just to go over that with everyone, because technically we shouldn't pay anything until the MOU is signed and approved. But again,
wasn't that, I believe we signed that? I thought we did. Yeah. Okay. At the beginning.
All right.
Yeah.
Any questions from the CPC committee?
Any idea what's the useful life, or would they say the useful life of this was? Another, or did they?
Yeah, they'd say at least 5 to 7 years. Again, it's just a seal job. It's not like we did a complete, grind down and resurface of it. But the expectancy, the average has been about 7 years before we'll probably have to address it again. And it's all based on usage. If they sit vacant, it'll last longer. If they're getting used heavily, it may last a little shorter. But they said in their contract, it's 5 to 7 is the expectant. What we got straight from the company.
It sounds fair. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Someone's got their hand raised. Who was
That's
it?
me, Freddie, sorry. The CPC voted to allow the pickleball the court to be all pickleball, which changes the MOU. So I think you need a new approval of the new MOU and a vote on
Okay.
that because, and Betsy, did you send that around so people could see it? You took a vote, I think it was the last meeting, and then I took the motion and added it into the MOU, so it's documented, because using one court just for pickleball doesn't quite mesh with what was on the warrant article in the MOU.
Gotcha.
I did send around the new MOU.
Do you want to put it up or just,
Yeah, I can put it up if you want.
Andrew?
Yeah,
you
that'd
want
be
that
great.
now?
Do you get it?
Jen, do you have to make Betsy?
No, she should be able to, yeah, you're not sharing Betsy, but you should be able to.
Okay, hold on.
Does Tim have to bring that down first, maybe?
Well, we can try.
Hold on. Share screen. Here we go.
Tim, can you play all those guitars?
Play some elevator music while we wait. So,
Can you see it now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes.
Yay.
Betsy, can you scroll down to where the changes?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Anyone have issues with that? For the project update? Tim, you good with that?
yeah, I'm good with that. I can sign that first thing in the morning if it's sent over.
Okay. Great. So then the only other thing would be looking for a motion from the CPC to approve using the reserve funds to support the completion of the pickleball and tennis courts.
Right.
And someone can just say so moved.
So
So
moved. You want to say contingency funds, not reserve?
Yeah, I was gonna say contingency, maybe safer.
Yeah, contingency, sorry, the contingency funds. So is that Mark, so moving that?
I so moved.
Any a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'm gonna go as I see people on the screen. Mark,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
myself is a yes. Great. So we got that. We all agree. Do we need to vote on the new MOU? Do we vote on the other MOUs?
You
That's-
should.
We
Yes.
did.
Okay, so looking for a motion to approve the new updated MOU with the project update from July as
So
we.
moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, again, as I see you on the screen, Mark,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
and Ann.
Yes.
And Andrew is a yes. All right, so we got that done. So then the last piece, since the project is all complete, we're gonna basically, just so everyone knows, when we pay the bill, it's gonna be, everything's funded and I saw the sign on there too, Tim. Thank you very
Mhm.
much.
Yep.
That's something we usually struggle with. But thank you for putting it on there. So
course.
it looks like we're good to go. We're going to talk later about there's a form we just have people sign or that we're going to start using to close out projects. But we'll get to that later. So
Great.
Thank you. So Calander Field.
So Calander, so this one's a little more involved, as you would imagine. And I know Jen took the lead a few meetings ago to kind of give you an update of some of the fun surprises we found as we were digging on the field. So I won't go into detail of a lot of it, but I'll just kind of walk you through with everything. So with Calander, I know this has been a project for years in this town, probably a couple of years. It's one of the ones I inherited over 3 years ago now when I came in. So this one's bittersweet to say goodbye to for some reason. But obviously as we remember, this field has some significant drainage issues. When there was significant storms, this field was unusable for could be anywhere from 2 days up to a week at a time, depending on the storm. Water was not moving. The water that was moving was coming down from the hill, spilling out onto the field. The drainage swales in the system that was around the field was severely clogged and not functioning properly. So we had some gates to go through with the selectmen, as well as you all, to make sure that our plan was going to work. And then we got to a town meeting 2 years ago for the final funding to get into it and to get going. And so we did. So I don't have as many progress pictures because the crew that was here got in real quick and they got to work. But what you'll see here is if you see the whiter lines, the lighter sand within the field, that is evidence of the new drainage system that they put in across the entire field so that they're moving water on the entire field appropriately to the outsides of the field. They phrase mowed it, so they took off that top layer of soil and of grass to slice seed it and put down new grass and new seed. So this was kind of the midpoint picture after they laser graded everything again, fixed all the irrigation as they were grading and digging, and put in that drainage system that we did talk about. As you can tell on the top, they removed a good amount of earth and obviously replaced it well and replaced it properly. This is evidence of what Jen was talking about at her last meeting, or that meeting that she kind of gave that update as we were digging for those swales at the bottom of the hill, where the most important piece was to capture that water, to capture that runoff the best we could. We did find 2 dry wells that were already installed on site that were nowhere on any plan. So it was quite the surprise when we were down there. And we did find probably if not one of probably the biggest issues that was causing all of this, of these 2 dry wells were connected by a pipe with no pitch. So all the water would fill up and it wouldn't go anywhere. So that was discovered pretty quickly. And obviously we had to get them out in order to put in the system that we promised, put in the system that was funded, and the system that we believe was gonna work better. This is the evidence of the new drains at the bottom of the hill now. A little more low key, obviously a little more prettier. But these are spread throughout that swale. If you're looking at the hill at Calander, they're at that bottom trench. So they're capturing the water at the bottom and they are moving it appropriately. This is a video. Is this playing on your end? Can you see this?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So this is that big storm that we just had about 2 weeks ago. So you can see kind of the dramatic amount of water that was coming off that hill. And you can kind of see, I'm just gonna play it one more time. That's coming off the hill. And then you can see the swell capturing it. This, as you guys probably remember, was a significant storm for about 2 days. So it did overspill onto the field, but it was being captured in that drain. And I'll be honest, I saw this and I was like, oh boy, like this is quite the first test of this field and of the system. I called the contractor as I was standing where I took this video, and he was so excited. And I was like, why are you so excited? And he said, go back the next morning. He's like, shoot me a picture and let me know what it looks like. So this is what it was when I left you'll see just water everywhere, ducks enjoying it, the water flowing to the corners where the drains are. And this was the following morning at 10 a.m. So I was thrilled. I was like a kid in a candy shop when I walked down to that. It was kind of sad when I walked out onto that field. But the system worked. The system's working as intended. As you're standing there, if it's quiet, you can hear the water rushing through those pipes to those outside drainage wells, and everything's, again, working fabulously. The field was firm. If that field was full of grass at that moment, it could arguably be played on. It was impressive. I was just very thrilled to see that it's working. The only slight change that we made is, as you can tell on the left side, you can see that the water really displaced all the earth there and the dirt there just from that runoff from the hill. So we're adding some shiplap stone there instead to try to, keep it all tight, so we're not getting much movement of the soils if we do get another storm, such as potentially one we may be getting overnight into tomorrow. But very good. And then this was taken last week, the day before our last scheduled meeting. That's all new grass already. So the grass is growing, it's growing well. The irrigation system, as I mentioned before, was pretty much fixed completely. New pipes, new heads to make sure coverage was proper, to take care of the investment, to take care of the seed, to take care of the new grass. And it's even thicker if you go out now. They planted at the perfect time with the amount of rain we've been getting, as well as the cool nights and the cooler temperatures. So where we are at now, I think that's the last slide. Yeah, where we're at now. So the work is done, and the contractor owns the field until the winter hits, until snow covers the field. So they'll be maintaining it. I'm doing the maintenance. They'll be out there tomorrow. They're going to be cleaning up the site. There's still some things on site. All the stones, all those drainage wells that we found. They're going to be clearing out the parking lot with the extra materials that they had, again, with the rocks and the boulders and everything they dug up. But again, they're gonna maintain it, and they own that maintenance. So they're going to be removing that stuff Thursday, and they're also going to be cutting. They've already cut it twice. So they're on it. They enjoy coming. They seem happy every time they're there to see it growing and coming in nice and thick. So if all goes to plan, again, this will be closed off this fall as they take care of it, and then it'll be back in action in the spring. So soccer can move back on. We've already met with grounds. We already talked to DPW. We already have a plan in place for maintenance of this field come the spring to make sure that we're staying on top of it again. So long project, multiple year project, but I think this is the perfect outcome. So very, very, very pleased with this one as well.
Thank you, Tim. And I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. After all that rain in that video, you said the next day you could still play on the field.
Yeah, that was 1 p.m. in the afternoon was the flooding, and that was 10 a.m. the next day when I took the follow-up picture. So it moved fast. It moved real fast. Great.
That's great. I would say that's a success right there.
Yeah, I'd say.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Attic photos, nicely done.
Thank you.
So Tim, is this then closed out? Like we can, when we fill out the form or when we approve the form for closing out projects, we can say this one's complete?
There's going to be a final invoice once the maintenance aspect of it is done. So we're still probably going to be expecting at least one more towards the end of the fall, but I would say by the end of the calendar year, this would be definitely closed out.
And is there signage on this field?
The security fencing is still up, so I'm going to wait until all of that is taken down. Just, for some reason, if that one post where we are planning to put it, which is the main entrance, needs to be taken out for a machine or something like that, I don't want to have to work backwards. So as soon as security, and I mentioned this to Freddie, as soon as the security fencing is taken down, we plan on securing it to the field sign that's on site.
Great. So anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, is there a preventive maintenance schedule or plan for the drainage system and the irrigation system, or is that something that still needs to be identified?
I don't want to say it's in writing. It's been talked about. It's on. So DPW has been fortunate. They've hired a new gentleman to work around Andrew. And if you've noticed anything, you know, Trottier, DePietri, Choate down at Woodward, they're putting focus on those fields right now, and they're probably the best fields that we have in town. When this field goes back online, they're going to shift their focus to this field to maintain it. So we're more overly confident that Andrew's going to be able to take care of this. Yes, there's going to be a schedule per the recommendation of the contractor of just cleaning out those swales to make sure that we clear them on a regular basis. It won't have to be every year, but probably every other, maybe every 3, just to make sure they stay established, just to make sure, you know, it'll also depend on the seasons. If we have crazy rain for an entire year, all the vegetation will wash down and we'll have to clean it out. But it will be on probably a bi-yearly schedule where we just go out and clean it out just so everything's flowing properly.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Any other questions for Tim?
I have one, if I may.
Yeah.
Tim, you keep saying maintenance. And because it's happening now, it can't be, in my mind, the maintenance we're not allowed to spend CPA money on. So if you could explain that, I think it would be helpful, because it's absolutely not allowed
Yeah.
use for CPA funding.
Yeah, and that's completely fair. And that's just, I guess that's the easier way of just explaining. So they just own the asset until until the winter hits. So it's not so much maintenance. They're going to oversee, again, they're going to do the growing aspects of if they were to just take care of the field. They're there to make sure that the field is growing and is, you know, secured properly. So their job is to make sure that the field is brought back up to playing condition. They ripped it up, and they're, you know, the contract's there for them to get it back to where it was and better it. So it can be seen as maintenance because of mowing and seeding and things like that, but it's more of they're still building that turf and building out that field.
Could we use the term field establishment?
Absolutely.
I just, you know, and if it does, the documents call it maintenance?
No.
So we can use the term field establishment would describe what's going on.
Right.
You just don't want someone looking at it in the future and say, oh, you paid maintenance money. It was, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
All right. Betsy, can you take a note of that so we can put that in the minutes as field establishment?
Got it.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so in terms of closing it out, then we'll do that in a future meeting sometime.
Yep.
Going forward, but
And I'll keep you posted when that nears.
and again, I believe this is currently still under budget, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Excellent. So no
Right.
vote on using contingency funds. So great. Let's see, I'm just looking at the agenda. So we already talked about closing out the pickleball field, tennis court, or pickleball court and tennis courts. So I think unless anyone else has questions for Tim, thank you, Tim, again for attending.
Thanks for
Thanks a
having me.
lot.
The update and great.
Great. Thanks. And I'll send I can send Betsy or Jen or whomever the slides if you want to include those in your minutes. Happy to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right. Good to see you guys.
Thank you, Tim.
See you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good
Good
night.
job.
You too. Thanks.
All right. So next item on the agenda is the review of project application for Algonquin Regional High School athletic complex project. Everyone have an opportunity to, well, first everyone received it, yes?
Yep.
Everyone have a chance to review it?
Yes.
All right. Betsy, do you have it? Can you bring it up? Or Jen, if you have it, can you just bring it up?
Yeah, I was just looking for it. I can pull it up in a second.
So I can say my biggest question is you know, what we can fund and what we can't fund. And so what I'm going to recommend is that we ask Freddie to connect with the coalition to just go through that price sheet to identify the areas that we can fund and the ones we can't, based off of it being a AstroTurf field. I don't know if anyone else had that same concern, but that was what I was looking for the most part, for this project. And let's see.
No, I agree with that. I clicked on the link and I did not scrutinize the detail. Is that what you're referring to? Having the coalition go line by line?
Yeah, well, mainly item by item. So like there are certain things for an AstroTurf field we can't pay for, and I can't remember if we can pay
So
for
there's things like the infill you cannot pay for, but like other, like the padding and other things for turf you can pay for. I've researched it. So there are specific things that CPC can and cannot be used for. But I also like to add on to that, because my question was they're looking for like, you know, a percentage of the project, which has many, many components. So I was wondering if this really should be like, maybe it's the same dollar amount, but tell us exactly what those dollars are paying for, not just a percent of this huge project.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we know from that itemized list what is, you know, we can fund, then we can at least go from there. If it's less than the 33% that they came up with, then, you know, that's our starting point. You know, that's at least the way I was thinking. But I thought it'd be very helpful to have them go through and give us the thumbs up or thumbs down on certain aspects of it.
Was that list in this document? Am I just missing it?
Yeah, I think it was at the bottom.
Oh,
There.
this is what it was. Yeah. Yeah. So there's tons of stuff here.
I mean, my initial impression is that the costs are so high that what they're asking for us, the 33% of South Rose share, I feel like we could easily come up with enough from this list to sum up to that amount. I didn't do any math, but that was kind of just my initial impression, that it's very, very expensive what they're looking to do. Maybe too expensive, but I think they would find 700 and whatever $1,000 easily.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with that. I just want to, since we have the breakout, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like we should just do our due diligence and say, hey, tell us which ones of these we can pay and which ones we can't. I mean, that's what they're there, how we can leverage, you know, our dues to the coalition.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
You know, my kids are out of the system at this point, so I'm not as close to it as I once was. But does the school committee? I mean, I remember when this was built, and the school was rehabbed, and all the fields were put in, and it was beautiful. And you know, it's one of those situations where they saw this coming. And did the school committee set aside any money along the way, knowing that a day of reckoning would come when, you know, the stands had to be dealt with and the field had to be dealt with, and perhaps the tennis courts would be updated? You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't fund this, don't get me wrong, but is this another situation where, you know, we're the I don't know, the funding of last resort because of perhaps less planning than was optimal?
So I think that's a great question when we have the applicants come in.
Well, they're also bringing this to town meeting next spring
Yeah.
for
Oh.
another several million, right? So that's what I was reading. They're asking our CPC and Northborough CPC and both towns. It's going to hit town meeting floor as well, looking to fully fund this.
So it's probably gonna end up being a situation that it gets paid for one way or the other. And, this is just one more source of funding that can be tapped, I guess. But
Mhm.
again, I am not balking at funding this, perhaps even to the full extent we can, but I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more from the applicant.
Yeah, and the only other piece I'd like to make sure is that there's a right for Southborough residents to be able to use the facility as need be. We're talking about putting a major investment in another town,
Mhm.
technically, that, Southborough residents are going to be able to, if they want to drive over there, walk the track, or do sprints on the field or whatever maybe not during school hours or whatnot, but Southborough residents can use it like they do at Trotter.
Mhm.
Good point.
So just to confirm, this isn't coming, the expectation isn't that this would be on the warrant for like next month's town meeting? It's for the spring?
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I did understand that.
Yeah, so this is our first review, internally. We've got it. We kind of just say if we have questions, if anything's glaring, we can do some prep work before the applicant comes in.
Okay.
And then, if we feel we're going to be ready at our next meeting, which whether or not, if we have one next week, we probably won't be ready to have them come in, but the next meeting after that, then have them come in and we do a deeper dive. They do a presentation and we ask our questions, have the breakout from what the coalition says, hey, we can fund, and if we, whatever that dollar amount becomes, figure out the percentage, either apply the percent. Well, I'm not trying to get ahead of myself here, but just figure out what the dollar amount is that we could fund. And then.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at, it looks like Southborough's portion would be close to 3 million, and they're requesting 1/3 of that come out of the CPA funding. Is that a correct reading of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. That makes me feel a little better. Okay.
Do we have any more clarity from like our financial perspective, as like what we have, like what's available, our capacity is? I feel like we still had open questions. We never got Brian in here to answer, but I don't know if anyone else had answered them behind the scenes.
So Freddie's been working, trying to still get Brian to come. He couldn't make the last meeting, and I think this was too short notice for this one, but we're still trying to get him to come in and discuss, what we do have and how he's investing the funds. So, on the application, are there other questions, concerns about it? I mean, it is a whole complex, one thing I was kind of scratching my head is like kind of, I think where Mark was going a little bit too was, has there been maintenance done along the way to take care of this, or was it just left alone until disrepair, and now it's so bad it's a complete rehab? Which is something I think we've seen a lot of, but it would be nice to hear that, that's not going to happen again. Like, is there gonna be funding to maintain the bleachers to, you know, similar to like the tennis courts today, like, okay, and if 5 years from now they have to be redone, you know, that's almost falls in the maintenance category in my mind. At that point, so.
To be fair, the materials do say it could be revenue generating, and they'll set aside some money along the way to kind of plan for this, which I was happy to see. But all good questions, all good questions.
Can I jump in now?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Freddie.
Well, I just want to make sure all the committee members got to ask all their questions, because especially if someone's new, or typically what the committee does, you review this, we create a set of list of issues raised or questions asked from this conversation, and we send it to the applicant so they can be prepared to answer those questions specifically in addition to their overall presentation. So there was one other topic I wanted to raise, is that when you look through the list of items that were being funded, and it's not quite clear if all of them are CPC or not, CPA or not. Originally, recreation was a passive recreation. And then as recreation became a more standardized use of CPA funds, they still restricted it to, and I'll have to double check if you want me to, when I talk with the coalition, what exactly is allowed, because one of the things that was a no-no in the last time we looked was stadium seating. And if something had stadium seating, the project could be not allowed for some funding. So it's just, we want to, and it seems like there's plenty of other areas that they have that you could, if it's not the full project, then you could say you're paying for something else and not that. But that's up to the committee to decide, but I think you would want to have me look into that as well as
Yes,
the asbestos, just
Yes.
to say, it's an issue, or could be an issue. Okay, thank you. Oh, and regarding the funding, I believe I have a commitment from Brian to come in, and typically we don't get the numbers put together for the budget until a little, like in October is the earliest. The dollar amount, I'll present what's in the accounts now at the next meeting. But like the surcharge and what that's anticipated to be, and then figuring out the state match. So we should be able to do that somewhat maybe in October. But getting, I think it'll be best to go over what's in the account now than when Brian's here, than me telling you right now, if that's agreeable.
sounds good.
All right.
Any other comments, questions on the application?
I guess I had one, maybe, like they talked about that like it's like Southborough, Northborough will have its own portions that would be bonded. And I was just curious, does that mean like if this million went through CPC, would we be bonding it in addition to another 2 million? Or I guess I was curious because I know we've talked about like our bonding capacity as well. So I didn't know if this would be like a different scenario where like the town has bonded it and CPC is just committing incremental funds every year, or do you have any idea?
Well, so I don't think we can do that.
Okay.
We can fund X amount. If we're gonna bond, we'd have to bond. And our bonding capacity has not been freed up.
That's what I thought. That's what I was wondering. Like what this would, like how it would even work for CPC to be funding something like this where we don't have bonding capacity.
So there, jumping ahead to where we had, the special town meeting updates, there was going to be an article from the selectmen, I believe, we're going request that we bump up the percentage of CPC from 1% to 3% or something above 1%, but I think they pulled that. So with that being pulled, it still leaves us very limited on our bonding capability. And I know we've talked before about if we were to increase it, you kind of need, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do we, say, hey, we've maximized our bonding, we need to get more bonding capacity so we can do a big project. We don't know what it is, but here now we have the project or a project that could use some bonding, and but that might be something for Springtown meeting.
Okay.
Any other questions on the application? So everyone's in agreement. Let's have Freddie talk to the coalition, see what we can and can't fund just across the board with that whole list. Then I think what we do is say, okay, what's the percentage that Southborough, what that whole list is, we come up with the whole dollar amount. We figure out the percentage based off of what they're already calculated. And then just for Southborough, and then if we apply the 33% or whatever, that they had out there, I mean, we can figure it out from there, but we want to boil it down to what is CPC eligible and the percentage based on Southborough's contribution to the school. Sound good? Like a plan? Like everyone's head nodding. Awesome. All right. If we're good, then I'm going to move on to the next item, which is finalized project closeout form. So I think, Betsy, do you have a copy of the form that I think Mark looked at?
I have both. I have both forms.
Okay.
So I'll pull this one up first. Hold on. And oops, sorry. I'm in a little trouble here.
Can you tell me, since I missed the meeting when this was discussed, what exactly is the purpose of these forms?
It's basically to just get a formal sign off that, hey, yep, we're done. Any funds left you can take back. And we are not expecting, or we're not going to do any more invoices will come in. No more invoices will come.
So you want the project proponent to sign this? Is that
Correct?
Because there's no signature line for the project. Well, there's no signature line for the project proponent, which I think it'd be a good, if that's the goal, somebody who proposed the project should be signing this as well as, I think, more so than us.
Can I jump in? Because I thought there was a need for it, which is why I created them at the meeting and when we discussed it. I hadn't thought of the project proponent. I really was just thinking of the CPC letting the project proponent know, and it was a documentation. So that conversation never happened at that meeting. I don't believe anyone else had recommended it. And that's something for you to consider as you're approving this. So it was, here's the project, we're submitting this final invoice and the project's over. Because then the question becomes, if you don't have their signature, do you pay the final invoice?
Well,
Do you come to agreement on that?
in the natural order of things, invoices are submitted, and at some point they come to us and say, this is it, this is final, and we're trying to memorialize the fact that it's over, and as an accounting function, I suppose, close the books on it. I get that. So when they come and say it's done, they should be willing to sign something like this, I would think. Then if a mystery invoice pops up, I suppose, we gotta, everybody's gonna deal with that, but that's. Hopefully that won't happen. So if this is about the proponent acknowledging that it's over and this is the last invoice, I think the form is fine, but I think somebody for the project should sign it, not just us.
So let's table this for a minute. And we can come back to it because let's move on to, we already talked about the pickleball tennis courts, right?
Andrew, there was another form as well. Did you want to skip that one now?
Yeah, let's skip
Okay.
we'll get back to the finalized project after we talk through the other items about closing out projects. But hold on to that thought, Mark, okay?
Sure.
So then the flag school exterior envelope, so everyone knows, I did get everything. We got the final write-up that's complete. We got John Parent's acknowledgement that he's reviewed it and everything's good. So I think we're ready to make the final payment on that and close that one out. Freddie, keep me honest here. Is there anything else we needed?
No, you had sent an email to the full board stating everything that was left outstanding, and they have completed everything. We got the acknowledgement, like instead of a sign, the report acknowledges the taxpayers of Southborough through the Community Preservation Act is funding the report. John Parent sent in his review of the report, and we got an invoice. That was the three things I think we were still waiting for.
Right. So if everyone's good with that, then we'll make the final payment. And that will be closed out. And we can talk about the form that we want to sign out, say, okay, we've done the final payment on that. But so we're good. Make a motion, we make the final payment on the flag school exterior envelope assessment.
So
Motion.
move.
Second.
Second.
David seconds. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, Mark,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and Andrew is a yes. Okay. So then the next one, the Civil War flag and historic documents restoration. So as everyone recalls, there's a lot that was going on with this, the flag. I think it was August 11th. I did finally get notice from Kathy Cook that there was an agreement and it was assigned for the affidavit that if something were to happen, that the flag would come back to the town. And that is signed by Michael Leishman. I don't know, Freddie or Betsy, I think you guys have it. Or
Yeah. Hold on.
and I think Freddie sent it out to everyone before this meeting too. So that was complete, which was a big piece of it. Now before that, so back in, let's see, it was March 23rd, Michael sent an email saying, to date, we've covered 97% of the original collection. We have assessed hours. We have assessed, housed, and stored nearly 12,000 items, including objects, documents, and photos. That means the large format items like maps, newspapers, posters, etc., as well as a considerable amount of material that belongs to other towns, which will be eventually deaccessioned and sent off. Other than the hours overage, we consider the archive project complete from a CPC standpoint and won't be requesting further funding to finish the small remainder. Therefore, the last bills I the bills I got at that point where town council said to hold off were invoice 2,103 and 2,104, which totaled $6,790. And those bills came in on 3/13, which was 10 days before Michael sent this email. Okay. So first of all, I think, from the standpoint now they've committed or completed their obligation. They've done the affidavit for the flag. Michael said the project was complete. I think we can make the final payment to Patty Fiore of the $6,790. Does everyone agree with that? Is there a motion to make the final payment?
So moved.
Second,
Okay. Any discussion? All right, I'll go as I see everyone. Mark,
Sure. Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
and Ann.
yes.
And Andrew is a yes. Okay, so now, though, there is another bill that was sent that came in sometime around the 11th of August that they are asking us to pay in the neighborhood of $5,000, which covers a time frame after Michael said, from a CP standpoint, it was complete. So the question is, what you were actually talking about, Mark, in terms of, not expecting bills come in and everything. Here we got an email from Michael saying the project's complete from a CPC standpoint. You won't get any more bills. And then now things stayed on because of they didn't sign the affidavit. We didn't contract Patty Fiore to do this work. He told us it was complete. Do we pay this, or do we say you told us it was complete and in our eyes the project's done?
Was the work performed after he sent the email?
Yes, the invoices are for work after he sent the email.
And it's for curating work, I think is the terminology.
Yeah, I guess my question is like, what work was done if he said the project was done? Like, I worry that if there was extra funds that we're just now using them for something else that wasn't voted for.
Let me look here. It says Southborough Historical Curator time. It has March, April, May, and June. March hours, total of 59. Again, this is invoice number 2119. That was submitted. The date of the invoice is August 9th. Total is-
How much money was remaining, Andrew? In the account?
We have enough to cover it. If that's what you're asking. But again,
I
okay,
kind of agree with Jen that we need to find out like exactly what she was working on during that time. I feel like I can't really make a judgment on it 100% without knowing what she was working on.
Yeah, our policy has always been when there's a change in scope, we ask that they come in beforehand to discuss the change of scope with us. With a situation like this, I don't want to be obstructionist, but we have to understand what was the change of scope, what changed after, our getting the notice of completion. How did the scope change and what work was performed?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
so
gotta
there-
come in. He's
there
gotta
was
come in and talk.
59 hours in March, 38 and a half hours or 59.25 hours in March, 38.5 hours in April, and in May and
I
June.
feel like if he sent a note in March saying it was done and then we're being billed hours and hours and hours, I feel like it just feels a little bit like we're paying for something that wasn't in that initial funding source. And I kind of feel like if you are sending us a definitive email saying you're done, we're not paying for work done after that date. I don't feel like that's in the scope of what we signed up for.
And I think it's even more reason to have that project completion form enforced, so situations like this don't come up.
Did he offer any explanation, Andrew, when he sent that subsequent bill? Oops, I forgot.
It didn't come, this bill actually came from Kathy Cook. How she got it, I have no idea, but it was when she said, oh, by the way, we got the final affidavit signed and here's the final bill. Can you please pay it? Which,
Patty Fiore didn't have anything to do with the agreement. I wouldn't pay it until he come. I asked him to come in and talk to us. I wouldn't just pay it. I'm not saying we shouldn't eventually. I don't think we can just pay that bill.
That's a lot of money. Like, I agree. I think we need some more explanation from Michael before we pay.
so would you want not only explanation, but like because he itemized what was left to be done, which were only a couple of large items that was highlighted in the email. It would, so I assume we'd want a breakdown of what was categorized within those hours, or either or maybe for the whole project. Because if she did it categorizing and, preserving some of the items, there should be a list of everything that was categorized.
I think it's more when he said it was done in March, what incremental work was done after that? This still falls under the original scope, right? Because if the project was done, that's why it's confusing why there's now another bill afterwards. Like, why do they need so many hours to do work on a project that was done?
Yeah, he said it was 97% done. But this is more than 3%.
Yeah.
A bill or of the project. So, okay. So the request is, I just want to make sure I'm clear because we've had difficulty getting Michael to attend. We're looking for an understanding of what was done after he sent the email that he said there was only 3% left on the project and we weren't, CPC wouldn't be he wouldn't be looking for CPC to fund it. So what makes up that $5,090 of the bill?
What changed and what did she do?
Yeah. Okay. Specifically, what was done, not, oh, that we found some other box, but what was in the box? What did you do with it? And how many items?
Mhm.
Give us a breakdown of the hours actually spent. Okay.
And is it really done now? Like,
Right. Yeah,
Right.
or we get another bill.
yeah.
Yes.
It's like, we can't just like support this part-time employee for whatever she happens to be doing that month. Like it needs to be finished at some point.
Okay. All right.
It'd be interesting to know what their approval process is as well. Who authorized this additional work? If he said it was done, how does that work as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay.
Can I ask a question? May I?
Yes.
So in the MOU, there was a required for biannual updates, which I'm not aware of getting except for that March 3rd one, 97% complete. Typically, like you saw with other projects, or when Tim just came in, he showed us what had been done. If you're closing out a project and there's been additional work done, I suggest the CPC isn't even aware of what was done for the 97%. And I think that is, the CPC took a leap of faith with this project because there was like an emergency with a bunch of stuff in boxes they needed to go through, and didn't have a list of what they were restoring. I think it would be, you may wish to ask what exactly has been done. Unless you can answer that question already. I'm not aware that I know.
No, like I don't know. So does everyone agree with that we should ask for a list of what actually got categorized and identified? And
Yeah.
Yes.
all right. Freddie, can you help me work on a letter for that, please?
I can, and in the meantime, I just want to be sure I'm processing the prior two invoices up to the March 3rd email from the president of the society. We'll pay those off, and then I'll work with you to for you to send a letter of what you just discussed.
Right, the invoices 2103 and 2104 total $6,790.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. All right. So if we're good with that one, now we can go back to the discussion we were having about closing out projects. So do we, I don't want to make it overly burdensome. I think if we get notified either by voice or by email, by phone call or whatever, say, yeah, the project's done. If it's the chairman sending a notice to the individual, say, hey, as far as we're concerned, this is complete based off of what you said, then it's done. And as of this date, we do not expect any other invoices to come through. Right. I don't want.
I would think our minutes would reflect that it was reported that it's over with. I mean, if you want a form to sign, I guess that's fine. But I think in terms of our documentation, we're fine. If the goal is to have the proponent say, yeah, we're done. So something like we just discussed either doesn't happen, or we have we're sitting in a more commanding position. Having someone sign a form like that, I think is fine. But I think the proponent should sign it, not necessarily us.
Okay.
Can I jump in why I created that in the first place? Is because we have lots of projects out there that have gone on for years. We're going through a process now of completing them. Sort of like the idea was like it was like a checklist. It had nothing to do with the projects you were just discussing. It was more, you have these files, you have the application, just make it a complete package. And then, because say a project was approved at town meeting in 2011, just say, and it gets finalized in 2022. Who's going to know what minutes to go look at to see that we considered the project done? And also so that we're putting the money back. It just would be a kind of a nice little bow, but I can see if you want the applicant to also sign it. You know, that raises some other issues that you, time-wise, because then do you not pay the final invoice until you get the signature? And that the CPC has voted that it's finalized. I'm not sure, but just seemed like you needed some sort of finalized documentation for these projects.
Yeah, I mean, from a process standpoint, I'm in favor of keeping it as streamlined as possible. That we would send the notification that, okay, it's done. Unless, Mark, you're saying from a legal aspect, we need them to sign it too.
No, if, no, I hear you. You could absolutely, if it's reported to us that it's done, we sign it, send it off saying this, memorializes that we're done. That's fine. Yeah, it's probably cleaner. You're not chasing around the project proponent for a signature. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Okay. Anyone else? So we go forward with the proposed. There was another one too, Betsy?
Yes, hold on.
I think the first one was just to notify the applicant that the CPC considered the project done, and I'm sure if the project proponent didn't feel so, you would invite him back to come, to come in and talk to you if that were the case. This here is more, if there's leftover funds, you have to return them, and you have to find out where they came from so they can go back to the right account. Although if a project had multiple funding sources, if it wasn't predominantly in one of the buckets for like open space or historical or housing, and I'll double check with Stuart. He said you could just put it back into the general unreserved unless, if it all came out of open space, it goes back into open space, or if it's a large, but if there's a few dollars here and a few dollars there, the CPC can make their own opinion on just putting it into general unreserved. But you can look at that case by case.
Okay. And this one, though, we can just do internally. And this goes to the town accountant once we declare the project is closed.
I think so, but I'll have to run it by Carla once you agree to do this before it's totally finalized for taking the funds back.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the form is fine.
Great. Anyone else have questions on this one?
I think my only question is like, but are we saying when we say something's done, it's done and we're not paying for anything else? Right? Because I feel like part of it is kind of like CPC determining like what are our policies and what are we going to do so that we don't have, we don't open the can of worms every single time.
Well, yeah, so we'd say it's done, and then we go to this form to say, okay, there's extra.
We move the money out and now it's gone, right?
Right, so there's no more, you send another bill, well, the funds are gone, like say for Clander Field, right?
Yep.
Tim saying he's under budget, we're gonna take back the contingency funds and any reserve money, come, January or February.
Mhm.
Sign these two forms over, or sign the one saying, hey, FYI, consider the project done, no more invoices are gonna come. Says yes, we take the funds back. Make sense?
Yep.
So is there a motion, that we use these going forward?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Go by how I see everyone on the screen. Mark,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and Andrew is a yes. All right. So let's see, next item. I think we covered everything there. Got a special town meeting. My understanding is the two items that were on the warrant article that involved CPC. One was, like I stated earlier, the possibility of increasing the percentage for CPC surcharge was removed, and the other one concerning automatically funding the Southborough, the Affordable Housing Trust was removed as well. So there's no CPC articles or items on the warrant. Unless anyone's heard something different. All right, that's all I had there. Next one, consultants contract extension. We'd extended the consultants, Betsy and Freddie's contracts through the summer, but now we have to do it for the next year. So be looking to extend to 2 votes. One, to extend Freddie Gillespie at the same rate and number of hours that we've done in the past for the next year.
I think it needs to be June 30th.
Okay, from
I don't know for sure, but I think to be safe,
to June 30th,
2023.
2023. Mark, were you
So moved.
a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Mark,
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
David,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
and Ann.
Yes.
And then the second one would be to continue Betsy's contract until June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Mark,
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
David,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and Andrew is a yes. All right. Next piece, chairman's report. Let's see, I know that I got a call the other day from town clerk asking, like, there's some of the minutes that we hadn't posted. I know Betsy and Freddie worked with them, and I think there was just, a couple of items that we didn't have out there in terms of when we had canceled meetings. Didn't seem like the town clerk was aware that we didn't have a quorum or we didn't meet. So we updated all that. And to my understanding at this point, Betsy and Freddie, correct me if I'm wrong, we're up to date except for the meeting minutes that we have outstanding. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. Other than that, let me see. From a CPC perspective, I know that, I think I talked to you guys before, there was talk of possibly a golf course, a request to do the parking lot and irrigation on the golf course. I have to talk to Mark Purple to see what he's thinking. He was the one who was requesting that, but I haven't, there hasn't been an application yet or anything. That's the only other thing I knew of that was out there. And the only other piece, I don't, just from a golf course update, because I'm close to it. I know that it sounds like the golf course committee is going to look at moving the 7th and the 6th tee boxes to try to mitigate golf balls to the residents along Latticewana. But
Good news.
something written up in the My Southborough about that too. So that was the only things I had. If anyone else have anything?
I do. Sorry, go ahead, Jen.
I was just gonna say, so Kristen Laval has expressed interest in wanting to be on the CPC. So I will be, we had a meeting last night for Recreation Commission, so I'm gonna be stepping down from CPC and Kristen Laval will be joining you guys. So I'd want to let you know, I didn't want it to be a shock or surprise. So I'll be sending in a note to the select board that I will be resigning and ask them to reappoint Kristen. So.
Okay.
All
Well, we're
right.
gonna miss you. It's been fun having you.
Yeah, no, it's been fun and I will definitely I'll still be around. And I'll do a handoff to Kristen also, so she'll be up to speed as well.
So she'll know how to run the Zoom meeting.
I don't guarantee that, but happy to teach anyone else that too. It's not super hard.
Well, you'll be greatly missed. It's been great having you and appreciate your support.
You'll be missed.
Yes, it's been fun. It's been awesome learning about it too. So
Yeah. Great. Anything else?
I had something.
Yeah, Freddie.
So this is the long ongoing saga of the Open Space Preservation Commission's project for the backside of the library that the CPC helped fund some consulting work for planning for it. And then this was before the St. Mark's Road relocation situation. So we were going to go forth at annual town meeting. And then it was suggested that maybe this wasn't the best time to discuss that project next to the cemetery at the same time as all the other angst was going on about the St. Mark's project. So we were thinking of coming back to this town meeting, and since then they have set up a working group for the St. Mark's Park, which is directly adjacent to the pollinator preservation habitat and gardens at the library. And I'm on that committee, and we have not finalized plans, and the feeling of the Open Space Commission had been, as long as that project isn't completely defined, we don't know what, if any, impacts that would be to the work we were going to propose, and it's better to wait. So I'm telling you all this is I didn't submit an application because we're not sure how the scope of the project will change. One of the things was unexpectedly, there was part of the dig went on the library grounds because someone thought the sidewalk was going there, and that was part of the area we would be doing some work in. So the committee hasn't talked about a sidewalk there, so I don't know but obviously somebody thinks there might be one. So we're going to hold off and then ask your acceptance of a later application if this park gets settled in this. We're hoping we'll have better answers before town meeting, because going to town meeting, annual town meeting. And just so you know, in case you haven't read or heard, that there was no indigenous burials discovered during the archaeological dig, but we are still waiting for a report back from Mass Historical Commission, because there was some artifacts found in, well, Annie, you know better than, can probably say better than I, but some artifacts found in some older buildings, but the archaeological expert did not think it would preclude the project, the road and the park moving forward. And maybe you want to speak to that, Annie?
Yeah,
Did I
no,
say it
you
right?
covered that very well. Just to add that they are awaiting a report, and that process can take some time. So it might be at least 30 days before we have that. But yeah, and Freddie, you did a great job summarizing.
The expectation is maybe mid-November, beginning to mid-November, because there's a report, the archaeologist, whatever, the guy who did the dig, sorry. He has to write a report that goes to Mass Historical, and then it can take them 30 days to review it and sign off on it. So we're kind of waiting for that. In the meantime, and I want to let everyone know, the working group is meeting tomorrow night to plan a public forum. And when that comes out, we're going to be publicizing it and hope everyone can come and give their input into what they'd like to see happen there. And I will certainly include you all in the email as long as everyone else in town that we can notify. A little off topic, but thank you.
Great. Let's see, so the next item then is meeting minutes. Betsy, is the last one, is it July?
July, yes, the July 12th meeting minutes.
Has everyone had a chance to review those?
Yes.
That was the one I didn't attend, I
You
believe.
weren't there, Mark.
Sorry, did everyone have a chance to review those?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from July?
So
12th?
moved.
Is there a second? Sorry?
Oh, I said second.
Okay. Just a minute, I'm just glancing through something. All right, all those in favor? Jen,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Andrew is a yes, and Mark, are you abstaining?
I think I have to abstain now.
I think you can actually vote on them, but that's okay. No problem. All right. Next item is next meeting dates.
October 20th and November 10th and December 1st.
So are we not meeting next week?
Well, we got through all the important things. There's nothing else urgent to get through. I think it's going to take a little while to see if we, I don't think we're going to get for what we're going to ask for the Historical Society to provide and everything. It's probably going to take them longer than a week to get all that.
Right.
So Freddie or Betsy, keep me honest. I don't think we need next week. Is that correct?
No, you're all set with what's in front of you.
Excellent. So
Yes.
then,
Just to be clear what we're doing, and usually we do a little bit of an outline. So on the 20th, I'll be drafting what we went over tonight for the application and sending it to the project proponent and inviting them to come to the next meeting. We already have Brian Ballantyne invited, and I believe I have a commitment to come to that meeting. There's some other agenda items that we pushed off because there's not as critical that will probably be on the agenda, but also now you want the Historical Society, if they can make it, to come. And that would be, the main thing would be to be the review of the project application, and then to start going over the budget. When's the next meeting in November?
November 10th.
November 10th. And then you want to start by December. November, you could be finalizing the projects. And then in December, start considering warrant articles and MOUs. And we have a couple of other applications that may come in. Is that correct, Andrew? I have the open space one that's potential, and you also have the golf course,
yeah, possibly.
possibly. Those are just possibilities, so.
Yeah.
think you're in good shape, and then to go over the budget in October as well. Okay.
Okay. Great. If there's nothing else, then I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So move to adjourn?
Is there a second? As Ben, any discussion? Mark?
No, yes. Discussion, no. Vote yes.
David?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Jen for the last time?
I know, yes.
And there's a yes. We're gonna miss you, Jen. Thanks.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great to meet all you guys and get to know you. I'll see you around.
All right.
See ya.
Thanks for all
Appreciate
of
it.
your
And
great work.
Freddie and Betsy, thanks so much for everything.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks, everybody.
Nice
Good
job.
night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.